Mike, we're each going to bring 3 to the table. Who's your first guy from the American group that you like today?
I could not mention this guy. We tried to get new names in here, but Tank Dell, the Houston wide receiver.
Right off the bat.
He's the best wide receiver here. He could not be guarded once again. His ability to separate, and it's not even just that. It's like the understanding of how to separate and how to get open. And you see him, on, a normal hitch route stop and then come back to the football and then attack it in the air and realize that, hey, the separation I maybe just got won't be there for long unless I go and attack this football. And just that mentality that he plays with is what can make up for a guy being like 163 pounds. So the, Darnell Mooney comps aren't unwarranted. The Deshaun Jackson comps are maybe a little lofty, but we've seen guys do it at that size. And yeah, he's only, 5'8", 5'9", but he has a 6-foot wingspan, which is far more important for me at the wide receiver position.
Well, you said right before the show when we were going live, you're like, this is the player that, well, certainly the Los Angeles Rams thought that Tutu Atwell was going to be, right?
Yes.
And this is the player that they thought that they were drafting. It just feels like Tank is so much more confident, crisp, and however you want to say it, like he attacks the football, it feels like in the air, deep down the field, and that was just areas of Tutu Atwell's game that I didn't really see. Yeah, he had the deep speed, and we saw that time and time again at Louisville, but when it came to like contested catches and really the nuance of play in the position, outside of just straight speed, he wasn't able to really show that on a consistent basis. Not saying that he'll never be able to, but we didn't see that in his tape. We're seeing that already from Tank Dell.
Yes.
So it feels like if there was a team that drafted a Tutu Atwell in the second round, it feels like Tank Dell's going to be a second-round pick. What do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, truthfully, I was high on him going into this. So, obviously, to see him do this, verifying it. But I had him a top 50 player. I had 47th overall on the PFF draft board heading into this. And I think that's the range we could see him come off the board. We obviously have a fit for him that we like a little later on in the show. There's a tease for you.
My first guy that I want to get to from the American team, Darius Rush, the corner from South Carolina, right? Cam Smith gets a lot of the publicity as the guy that could go first, the first corner off the board from South Carolina. But the guy on the opposite side of him, Darius Rush, man, I've been really impressed with him so far this week. Now, there are times when I feel like he might lose a rep early on off the line of scrimmage, but you believe in like the trail technique and being able to recover and all, like he just does that so well. Feels like he plays very comfortable with his back to the ball as well. He again made so many different plays. He had an interception in the one-on-one drills yesterday. He almost had another one today, and there were just times he was blanketing these receivers. A couple of his reps, I thought it was almost like he was sitting in the offensive huddle. It's almost like he knew where the wide receiver route was going. He was able to cut on it so well. He was able to anticipate. But I just think that was from him reading these wide receivers and being able to do that. So we've said it before. It's a loaded cornerback class.
Yes.
But Darius Rush, man, we got to add him to the list. He's having a great week, I think.
Yeah, you love to see guys who have ball production on tape back it up here. He on tape at South Carolina, I guess it's not even tape, statistically, a quarter of his targets throughout his career he either broke up or picked off. Now here,
there you go.
In Mobile, the most pass breakups / interceptions through 2 days in the one-on-ones.
Yep.
Like he is a producer of ball production. I guess that was a little redundant. But he gets his hands on footballs. May not be the high-end athlete that goes high in the draft,
right?
But he's the guy you probably love somewhere on day 2.
To me, it just continues to strengthen what is the bread and butter, or I guess I should probably say the backbone of the 2023 NFL draft class with corners. So.
I agree. Yeah, in terms of position, I think running back's still the strongest. But obviously running backs
man, I don't know anymore, man.
Like corners there.
Running backs are stacked this year, no doubt about it. I'm not taking anything away from the running back class. I just continue to find new corners that impress me. It's almost like what you were saying yesterday a little bit with Tyreek Stevenson, where it's like, well, I already got 10 corners I like, but maybe I have to get them in there.
Exactly.
And then you're moving guys a little bit further down the list. So anyways, who's your second guy?
My second one, I'm going to the safety position. I'm going to Florida State safety Jamie Robinson, actually a former teammate of Darius Rush, started his career at South Carolina, transferred to Florida State 4 years as a starter.
It's a background knowledge.
And he showed out anytime you see a safety going in the one-on-ones against wide receivers on the outside and looking competent at all. That's a massive value add because of how valuable a safety is that can drop down and cover the slot at the NFL level. And we saw that in reps against Rashee Rice today. We saw that in reps against a number of other receivers. He looked like he belonged at that position. And then obviously as a tackler, the other things about the safety position we've already seen on tape. So adding that checkbox to his prospect profile. I think Jamie Robinson's really helped draft stock.
He was super physical today. There were a couple of reps that I saw him win with just physicality. Like, he's not afraid to get his hands on corners in the contact window. He's not afraid to kind of bump them off of their routes. And we saw that time and time again. It really disrupted a lot of these wide receivers. It feels like maybe these corners are, I don't want to say afraid of getting called for penalties because, right, we have an officiating team that is here and they'll throw the flag for defensive pass interference if during a one-on-one drill or during the scrimmage period, you commit a penalty. So you know, like, okay, like, yeah, can't do that. It's an NFL officiating crew. They're going to call me on that. But it just feels like he is still very confident in knowing what he can get away with. And he's not shying away from what he knows he can get away with. And so I think that he was another guy that I'm glad that you named off there. I got to talk about Tajay Spears.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you talked about this running back class being good. He is absolutely one of them. To me, he's been the best back here over the last 2 days. And in my opinion, that's not a debate. He had the highlight run of the day here during the full 11-on-11 period of practice where I believe it was just a little counter run where he was following his offensive line the way that he needed to, got blocked very cleanly. He got to the second level and boom, just put a move on the linebacker, could not even, and they're not even tackling. So he's not even breaking tackles. It's basically a scenario where if the guy who you are going up against, if he gets you in between his shoulders or if he gets two hands on you, it's almost like a two-hand touch thing where it's like they'll blow the whistle. They don't want any of these guys really taking hits. They don't want any of them going to the ground. They're trying to avoid injury. Nobody even touched Spears on this run. And he ends up breaking it for 50 yards, and the offense is going crazy, and they're all running to the end zone with him and everything. And it just, Tajay Spears, I've just been so impressed with him over the last 2 days. Major standout player for me.
Yeah, I think if anyone's raised their stock the most here at the running back position, which is difficult to do here. It's obviously not a scenario that sets up well. It has been him. His ability to basically from a standstill, or just the acceleration, the explosiveness that he has, it looks different compared to the rest of the running backs here. And I think he won the week before he even strapped his pads on because he came in at 204 pounds. When he listed at 195 at Tulane, obviously well below what you'd like for a bell cow starting running back in the NFL. We've talked about it before. The average running back that went for over 1,000 yards last year weighed 220 pounds was the average weight. So bigger backs get the carries, are the more valuable backs at the NFL level. But when you're 5'9", you can be a little on the lighter side. The Aaron Joneses of the world, the shorter guys, you can be 205 and still be a power back at the NFL level because of the way, obviously, you're packing that mass on. So for him to come in at 204, have that same level of explosiveness, and do what he's done this week, yeah, big riser.
Yep, I agree 100%. What about the last guy from the American group?
Last one, I'm going to shout out some offensive linemen here. This guy, he was IOL 3 on the PFF board heading in. May not be climbing up because the other two guys ahead of him, John Michael Schmitz, the Minnesota center, and Osiris Torrance, the Florida guard, doing well themselves. But Steve Avila, the TCU guard, get to know the name because I think he's going to be a second rounder after what he's put on tape here because he played well at guard and center today, snapping, even though he did not play center at TCU. Didn't get beat in the one-on-ones. He is very stout, 330 pounds, but he can move at that size. One of the best pass protectors in this draft class. I think you heard it here first. Not heard it here first, but this guy's going to go highly in the draft. He's going to go. I think he's second rounder.
Whether it's true or not,
no one's going to remember. But do you think he's second rounder?
Maybe they did hear it here first. You don't know. You don't know. They're not going to fact check you on it. you just say it with your chest.
Steve Avila.
You heard it here first. Nobody else has said this about Steve Avila. No, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm glad that you're giving him some good pub here, whether you are first or not. Look, I've loved what these teams have done, especially along the offensive line. You know, they're rotating a lot of these guys into different positions. Of course, when you're going one-on-one, they'll say like, hey, we want a new left guard in here, new center in here. And normally it's just to kind of be a placeholder. But then when the ball comes back around, that's wherever they lined up, whatever position they wanted to step up and take, they then have to take a rep there. Yeah. And there were a couple of times where Cody Mock, we talked about him on yesterday's show, the North Dakota State offensive lineman, how he was playing guard all day yesterday. He had a couple of reps at center today just because he stepped in, and you talked about him maybe being a center prospect. And there were just a lot of interior offensive line prospects that you go, okay, they were a center only in college, or they were a guard only in college, that they're getting some reps at those other positions, which is something that I think is very advantageous about the Senior Bowl. Last guy I'm going to shout out from the American team, Iowa State pass rusher Will McDonald. We didn't talk about him a ton yesterday. Could have. Certainly wasn't about to go 2 days without talking about Will McDonald because he feels like he is one of the best pass rushers here. I mean, he's a lighter guy. He's around, 240, 245? I think he was listed at 243, I believe. Maybe it was a little bit under 240, but I think he's 245 now. So trying to bulk up a little bit, trying to stay in that 245 range, which is good to see. And it's also good to see that he still has the speed with it. Multiple times, no matter who he was going up against, he was able to display the fact that he could hit you with speed to the outside shoulder, or he was very comfortable hitting you with speed with inside counters as well. Specifically, he went up against Darnell Wright, the Tennessee offensive tackle, who we loved from yesterday, who I still like. I still like a lot. He had back-to-back reps against Darnell Wright. First one, beat him to the inside. Second one, beat him to the outside. And it was just 2 clean wins that you really did not see against Darnell Wright that we have not seen all week. And yet Will McDonald, he's the one who bested him once the day before. He got 2 more wins against him today. He's playing his best against the best competition. And as it comes to speed rushers in this class, he's making a name for himself, and he's making a case to be one of the top guys drafted.
Yeah, I think with his pre-draft process, we could see him as a name that sneaks into the back of some first-round mocks.
I would agree.
Because of, one, he was a Bruce Feldman's Freaks List guy. He's going to go to the combine and blow it up. 2, he has a unique build for the edge position that he's 6'3", but he has 35-inch arms, a 6'10" wingspan. He is ideally built. Like, he could probably put on some more mass onto that frame and be an every down edge, because at Iowa State, he's playing like 4 and 5 technique, head up over tackles, and still stout enough in the run game to do that. So he's an every down player despite only being 241 pounds. And if he keeps rushing the passer like this in a role that really we didn't get to see a lot of him at Iowa State, I think someone's going to fall in love with those tools and what they can do to develop them.
All right, national team. Let's go 3 up, 3 down here. What do you got?
First one for the national team, I am going to go Michigan State wide receiver, Jaden Reed.
Oh, it has to be.
Fastest GPS time of any wide receiver here, a speedster. And
the data.
At the catch point as well today, he showed a number of great receptions, a number of great ball tracking reps down the football field, and that he's got that suddenness, that quickness that is what people are looking for. One of the better separators here, one of the better guys getting off the line of scrimmage, and yeah, I think he's made himself some money.
Yeah, that's my number 1 guy as well, and I figured that we would probably mention him quite a bit on the show. I didn't know that we were going to both have him here in our list, but you talked about the release. That's something that's pressed me 2 days in a row now with Reed. I didn't talk enough about him yesterday when it came to this, because we were praising Michael Wilson, and for good reason. He had another good day, the Stanford wide receiver. He's making a case to be wide receiver 1 from this group here in Mobile. But Jaden Reed, man, the way that he gets off the line of scrimmage, the footwork, the foot speed specifically, he is getting these corners turned around. If they've got certain kind of leverage on him, they may think, oh, there's no way he's getting across my face this quickly. And boom, he will. He absolutely will. And right before he gets to his route, he's already got them spun around. They're confusing. They're trying to play catch up. And that's just the kind of receiver that Reed is. He's a speed wide receiver that's a lot more than just a vertical guy. He knows how to use his speed and his quickness to really start to separate even right when the ball is snapped. So he is somebody who I wanted to shout out as well. I felt like he was one of the standout wide receivers for this day.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a great receiver class here, but there have been a number of guys who were, I don't want to say off the radar, but like maybe more like considered day 3 guys heading into this, that maybe more day 2 guys after this.
Who's next for you?
Next for me is Northwestern defensive tackle. We practiced this pronunciation prior to the show. Adetomiwa Adebare.
There it is. There it is.
The Northwestern DT. Unique build, to say the least.
Holy cow.
One of the weirdest builds truly I've ever seen. 6'1".
And that's a compliment. You say weird. That's that's a compliment.
In as good a way as possible as you can have for a defensive lineman, because he's short, stout, 6'1", 280.
Good leverage.
But with 34+ inch arms, a 6'10" wingspan, he gets under guys. You saw him do a number of different pass rushing moves today in the one-on-ones that I don't want to say we didn't see at Northwestern, but like he wasn't allowed that kind of freedom that we saw today in the one-on-ones to really go at it, really attack gaps the way he has, and he is a high-end athlete. This guy is going to test extremely well at the combine. I think he's going to be one of the risers of this pre-draft process, because today no one could hold a candle to him in the one-on-ones. He was the most impressive DT there.
Yeah, we just think about the mechanics of being a little bit shorter, a little bit more stout. Means you're packing a lot of muscle on you, but then having a longer arm. So if you're an interior guy, if you just try to visualize this, you're able to get a little bit lower. You're able to create that leverage, get underneath the pad level, a lot of these offensive guards. And yet when you shoot your hands in there from leverage, those arms extend, and you mentioned how long those arms are. Now all of a sudden, interior offensive linemen, might look like T-Rexes out there. Like they can't latch on to you, So it's a perfect build.
Geno Atkins is what that's called.
Geno Atkins.
It reminds me build-wise though but Geno had like stubbier arms too. Geno was not like the length of a guy like Ade, but it reminds me like Osa Odigizua coming out of UCLA.
Sure.
Who 280 pounds, people are like, oh, is he, big enough to play at that? Well, it's like, well, he is, because he's only like 6'1", but he still has long enough arms. So he's played at that level for the Cowboys and played well because of it.
All right, my second guy, Kentucky cornerback Keegan Smith. I continue to go back to this cornerback class and just a little teaser of what I'm going to talk about in 3 minutes. That's not the only corner that I have here on this group too, but Keegan Smith really impressed me because as I was watching even the warm-up period with the corners versus they just go one up against each other before they get into the wide receiver stuff, the one-on-ones and the scrimmages. And he just continued to use his length and his physicality in a way that even the coaches that were coaching him were like, it's a damn good rep. There are just a handful of times that they were just saying to him, like, I like that, what you just did, the way that you got your arms extended, the way that you used your shoulder there, the way that you bumped this guy this way. He's like, bring that to the field. And he did. I thought that there were a handful of reps. I didn't see every rep of his, but there were, again, a handful of reps of where he took that coaching, that direction of like, oh, okay, they talked about this as his strength. Let me bring this to the field. And he was able to use that well in the one-on-ones, I thought, especially. We talked about Julius Brents yesterday being a bigger, longer corner, yet being patient, using his length exactly when it mattered most, not just all the time and being reckless with it. That's what I felt like I got from Smith today. So this is another guy who used physicality correctly, and there were just a handful of reps, especially early on in the practice when I was very impressed with him, felt like he was winning a lot.
I'm going to have to lean on you for this one because I did not watch him.
Okay.
But I will have to go back and
watch
watch him.
That's trust, folks.
My last one, though, is a guy that is a fun-to-watch all-star. Mm-hmm. If you've seen his tape at all, a Cincinnati hometown king, Ivan Pace Jr., the linebacker from Cincinnati.
Yes.
Now, have to get this out of the way. He is 5'10". He is 231 pounds. He's not going to be
230. All right.
He's not going to be Luke Kuechly anytime soon. He's not going to be, Tremaine Edmonds anytime soon. He's going to have to play a role.
He might be.
A unique role. But my Lord, if in the pass rushing one-on-ones against running backs, it was comical. They were speed bumps to him. And that obviously shouldn't be surprising because he led all of college football with 55 pressures as an off-ball linebacker last year, 12 sacks and 18 hits. I am interested. Now, I'm not saying that he's definitely going to do it, but a James Harrison type transition with this guy, if I'm drafting him like the 6th, 7th round, let this guy rush the passer. Like, he has a unique, uncanny ability to do so, knows exactly how to get home. And he's 5'10", could probably get up to 240 or so. That's what he was listed at Cincinnati. And I want to see just him reps as a blitzer. This guy is a weapon in that regard. And he had the second fastest GPS time of any linebacker.
He did.
So
you brought that up to me multiple times during practice.
That's a guy that you can win with. In a certain role, you're not going to have him play one-on-one coverage against Travis Kelce and expect that to go well for you. Mm-hmm. But there are things that he can do as a guy who earned a 93.2 overall grade to lead all college football last year at the linebacker position that in certain schemes can be valuable.
I like where your head's at. Mm-hmm. I like the thought process of maybe putting him on the line, letting him rush a little bit. Can't in all good conscience compare somebody to James Harrison until I see them stack 24 plates of 45 pounds onto a sled and push it 50 yards down a turf field.
He wears a neck roll, though. I feel like that's got to help.
The case.
If you're going to be like stout linebacker,
and he always has the jersey rolled up. He's never plays without the stomach stomach unexposed. It's always exposed.
Yeah.
So that's already bonus points towards the James Harrison.
The gut is always out with him. That's true. That's true. Okay, well, maybe we're well on our way. Maybe I need to follow him on Instagram. Maybe he'll post, a couple of IG stories of him training, and maybe he'll throw, 20 plates of 45 on the sled, and
once he makes BR Gridiron the social feed, then you know that he's.
You won't believe what this draft prospect did in a workout.
And that's
what I need to see. And then it's just going to be Ivan Pace Jr. Last guy that I want to shout out from the national squad, Kyu Blu Kelly, the cornerback from Stanford. I'm going to be honest with you, had a rough day one. He did. But it's tough to come in as a corner and really stand out. It's just a drill. You go in a lot of drills that are offensive focused, especially the one-on-ones. He had his teammate Michael Wilson just making him look silly.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, you can't do that. He's your friend. And it was tough. I felt like there were a couple of reps where he just wasn't confident. And I feel like he has the ability. He just was a step late, just a millisecond late, whether it was to flip the hips or recognize where the wide receiver was going. And it was just a tough first day for him. But I felt like he bounced back beautifully today. He looked a lot more in control. He had a pick 6 in the 11-on-11 period, which was fantastic. He almost had another interception like 4 plays later on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. So he was moving between left corner and right corner. So I love to see that versatility for him. And I just know he's got a handful of fans out there who are big on him, big on the size, what he could do. Brian Kelly's son, so he's got the NFL pedigree as well. But I just wanted to shout him out as a guy who had a really nice bounce back day after a tough one on day 1, but it was a nice day 2.
Hey, he's another corner who just on tape kind of got lost in the shuffle for me, where it's like I like it. I like him in off coverage a lot. I like his eyes and the way he attacks the football, but it's just like there's so many corners. Where does he end up stacking up? He could unfortunately slip to end of day 2, day 3, just because sheer numbers game.
Yep. All right, so those are our 12. Well, actually, that's not true.
No, we doubled up a couple.
Did we double
just
up
one,
2?
Just Jaden Reed.
Okay, so 11.
Yeah.
Those are our 11 guys that we liked during the week.